Good evening, the people of Zimbabwe. Anzi manera akanaka vana veZimbabwe. Regai ndiseke zvangu mwana womunhu mutema. Iyi t-shirt regai timboibvisa from the look of the things, timboiswededzera kure. Vanhu vangaramba vachifokasa pa-t-shirt iyoyi because ine bright color. So people might end up focusing on that t-shirt rather than focusing on things that we are going to discuss tonight. My name is Shepherd Yuda. I am a political analyst, a human rights defender, a socialite. Mungada kuti tambe tinotamba, mungada kuti rwisane tinorwisana. Panapa tunoita zvamunoda sevana veZimbabwe. Saka chekutanga ndichisvika Simba, mukoma Simba Rashe, Cheten atete Jeni Kapua. Regai ndivhure mutambo ine dhiriwora. Vanhu vari suwa dhiriwora anzi mukoma Shapiro. Kana munyango muchizoridza mamwe ana corruption vaiva musasiya dhiriwora nondo rakatirera nai. Saka hadzi takati tikoti dhiriwora iro vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora rembanje vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora iro vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora rembanje gara mudhiriwo, vakomana vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora rembanje nogara mudhiriwo, musatambe navo vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora rembanje gara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora vakomana, dhiriwora rembanje vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora iro vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora rembanje nogara mudhiriwo, vakomana vanogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora rembanje nogara mudhiriwo, dhiriwora vakomana. Hanzi ndokutaura kwatinenge tichiita kana takutanga mutambo wacho nai. Chekutanga regai ndiuye ndichiintroducer sezvandogara kutaura kuti pane organization iripo varume inonzi Yes I Can. Vanoda kunzwa nezveorganization iyo vakati one day vazhinji mune nhamba dzangu munondifonera, vasina nhamba dzangu munodzitsvaga munodziwana, kana uchidzida unongoya kuinbox panapa toita sei topanana nhamba idzodzo. Pane organization iri kunzi Yes I Can. Maona pane video yandaposta vanhu vari kutrainwa kuZambia, vamwe vari kutrainwa different areas. Zambia iri kutraina mauto ayo, DRC iri kutraina mauto ayo, Angola iri kutraina mauto ayo, Botswana iri kutraina mauto ayo, Zimbabwe iri kutraina mauto ayo. MuZimbabwe takuona mauto edu isusu ari muZimbabwe, haasi Zimbabwe National Army, no. Those are ZANLA forces. They belong to a ZANU-PF political party. Saka Zimbabwe does not have a national army. This is one thing that I should assure Zimbabweans, that we don't have a national army in our country, but we have got a ZANLA force, a military wing that belongs to ZANU-PF. It is a combined military wing of ZANU and ZAPU. This is why you see they are 100% controlled by ZANU-PF. So as a people of Zimbabwe, we need to form a Zimbabwe National Army, a military wing that defends the country. That has totally nothing to do with the politics of Zimbabwe. So, Yes I Can, they have an initiative to say, look, if we are to recruit and train, we don't want partisan people, people who will say, I belong to a certain political party. Because what will happen after Yes I Can militarize, it is going to fight a ZANU-PF military wing or the Zandla forces so that we introduce a Zimbabwe National Army. Currently, Zimbabwe does not have a national army. It has got a youth militia, an army that belongs to ZANU-PF. So Zimbabwe needs a national army. Iwewe neni tinebasa in trying to form a Zimbabwe national army. Whatever you see today, it's a Zanla force. Those are not soldiers to defend Zimbabwe. They are soldiers to defend a political party. I've been looking at situation that is happening right now in Tanzania. What is happening in Tanzania is an eye-opener for every Zimbabwean to see. We had an election in our country, a disputed election, which SADC condemned, African National Union condemned, United Nations condemned. After all these powerful organizations that Zimbabwe is an affiliate to, condemned the 2023 election as a non-event, that means Emmerson Mnangagwa occupies the State House or the Zimbabwe presidency as an illegitimate leader, someone who was not legitimately elected, or someone elected in a democracy, or someone elected in a one-man, one-vote, in a free and fair election. So Zimbabwe does not have a president. This is what it means. Zimbabwe has got an imposter in position of a president. Someone who has got no powers to make deals or sign any deal with any country for the benefit of Zimbabwe. But it's just a placeholder that we must remove and put a president. When we put a president, we are looking for a steward. Zimbabweans, they want a steward. Someone who can take charge of their contributions in form of tax. And who knows where to put that tax, or who put the tax in good use. Not someone who is illegitimate, who took Zimbabwe resources and give them to friends instead of the people in need. At the end, we see people receiving cars, we see people receiving cash in kind, but who are receiving this cash? Who is receiving this man? Who determines who is supposed to get what? That must be a government issue, where the government will determine that we've got blind people in our country, those born without sight, who are starving, who can't go to work, who can't even go and sell something because they can't see. They've never seen in their lives. And those people should be the beneficiaries of whatever cash and kind is handed over or handed to the people. Who deserves a car? Who deserves a wheelchair? Someone born lame. Someone living with a disability. Those are people our government will look into to say, look, we have got a government that is running the affairs of Zimbabwe. When we say the affairs of Zimbabwe, we look at disadvantaged people, those who cannot walk, those who can't talk, those who have never seen in their lives, those who are born blind, those who have gone blind. We have got the ailing ones, people with the cancer, diabetes, strokes, people with the different life-changing diseases who deserve to be looked after by the state. So those people are not benefiting anything. I've been looking at what Tanzanians are doing in their country. They have cited the things I am telling you now, that these are the things that has influenced them to take the decision they took on the day of voting. Suluhu, Idamini Suluhu, a woman dictator. She arrested all powerful opposition leaders, incarcerated them, so that they don't have time to campaign, time to solicit for the votes. And then he went into an election as the only candidate in Tanzania and declared himself winner by 85%. This is why you see Tanzanians took to the street on the day of voting, 29th of October. They took to the street on the day of voting. They destabilized the voting process. They raided the polling stations, took away the ballot papers and ballot boxes, burned some of them. Some of them were seen strewn into the streets. People were protesting. And the protesters are ready to die for their country. Tanzania is their country, their only home that they know. And they said, we are ready to die for that country. As I'm speaking right now, over 700 protesters have been killed. I hear news all right around the world that the chief of the defense forces has refused to take orders from politicians to fire at the protesters. So I am not sure who is killing these protesters. Live ammunition has been used in these protests, and the people have been shot dead. I was looking at the empty cartridges that were picked from shooting scenes. Most of them are ZW. That means these were ammunition made in Zimbabwe. And we have seen ZANU-PF blue-eyed boy, Sewikine Chivayo, flying in a private jet. He flew to Tanzania on several occasions. He met Madam Suluhu, who is supposed to be an Islam, a Muslim. She is supposed to be a Muslim. But I don't know whether she's Muslim or she just wear that thwab, but not being a Muslim. Because people were asking, if she was a Muslim, why would she go for immunization, injections that were made from pig's blood, insulin that was made from pig's pancreas, tablets which are made from things that are not one of the halal. Suluhu. She's a fake Muslim. I wish the Islamic world come open and condemn this woman. A woman labeled Idi Amin of Tanzania because of brutality and cruel. Some people are saying that she has fled Tanzania for Zimbabwe. They are saying she is in Zimbabwe as I'm speaking. Hans Yuda wadzoka yo unotukuwadza nehope. Aripi Mama Dada. Mama Dada is suspected to have been uplifted or lifted or flown to Zimbabwe to hide. I don't know if she is gonna return to Tanzania according to what is happening there. I've seen videos of soldiers in front whilst protesters were marching to the State House. By now, I think protesters have invaded the State House. But Madam Dada has fled that country to Zimbabwe. Atete QD, how are you? So, I was comparing a lot of things between Tanzania and Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, if you look about the Zimbabwe issue is a bit trick as compared to Tanzania issue. Tanzanians have said no to a sham election. Mkomaneo Amandisha and the State House is confirmed occupied. Yes, that's true. Thank you so much. So Tanzanians have reached the State House and the protesters have occupied the State House. Madam Dada is nowhere to be seen. She went into hiding and later on flown to Zimbabwe. This morning, Zimbabweans, they woke up and found soldiers everywhere in the streets with the tanks occupying Taiti Chiko Road yaya, the airport road yaya, Queensway Road, Queensway and Zoti Agunzan. Tanks were seen patrolling there. Tanks were seen along Enterprise Road patrolling there. And tanks were seen near Jagas Masasa patrolling there. So people were saying it's because the butcher of Tanzania has been flown there and the army were ready to protect her. Usually, these butchers or these African butchers, when they hide in Zimbabwe, they are usually given houses in Highlands in Zimbabwe. Highlands, Harare. This is where Mengistu, Maliam Mengistu, that guy from Ethiopia, that butcher of Ethiopia is hiding. He has been resident in Highlands. This is where these dictators are usually given houses to go and hide them. So Madam Dada is suspected to have been flown there and taken to Highlands in Harare. This is where she's hiding whilst Tanzania is burning. The reason why is before elections, ZANU-PF sent Sewikino Chivayo to go and try to influence rigging in Tanzania. He was seen there on several occasions. He interfered with the Tanzanian elections. He also interfered with the Mozambican elections. He also interfered with the Kenyan elections. Recently, he has been seen flying to Nigeria to try and interfere with the Nigerian elections. This probably is the worst thing that I would want to be involved in, because eventually the Kenyans are going to be angry about it. The Kenyans are angry about Zimbabweans interfering in their election process. Tanzanians are angry about Zimbabwe interfering in its electoral process. Zambia is already angry about us. Mozambicans are not happy, but some Zimbabweans voted in Mozambican elections. So Zimbabwe has become an epitome or a center of all these electoral frauds in SADC. And we have interfered with the elections of every country under the government of Emmerson Mnangagwa. So what is happening in Tanzania is something that has been predicted for centuries. And they also, yes, interfered in South African elections where Ramaphosa got funding from Zimbabwe. And the ANC released a statement distancing itself from shameless election observing. Thank you so much, Mkomama. So, Zimbabwe interfered in South African elections as well. We all know that. So we have become a problem in SADC. What does that mean? We are interfering in Tanzania. We have interfered in Kenya. We interfered in Mozambique. Emmerson Mnangagwa interfered in South African elections. Where are we going? What are we doing? And why is that happening? It's only Zimbabwe. We never held free and fair elections in our country. We go to Tanzanians and influence them not to hold free and fair elections. We visit Kenya and tell them, you do not need to lose power, so you don't need to hold free and fair elections. In Mozambique, we did the same. Thanks to Botswana, because Emmerson Mnangagwa went to Botswana and tried to influence the Tswana people, but the Tswana people said, no, get off, bugger off. So Zimbabwe has created a lot of enemies. This is like an intelligence report that Zimbabwe is right now the target of every nation. And Shepherd the ZANU PF interfered in US elections too, yes. So it is now, Namibia too, they went there, they interfered. So Zimbabwe is seen as a problem in the region. When you are seen as a problem in the region, this is a blessing to the opposition parties in that country. Because what's going to happen now, Zimbabwe can be attacked by any force from these SADC countries. If Botswana wants to attack Zimbabwe today, yes, they can. They've got reason to do that. Namibians, if they want to attack Zimbabwe, they've got every reason to do that. Tanzanians, if they want to fight Zimbabwe today, they've got every reason to fight Zimbabwe. Mozambique, if they want to take military action against Zimbabwe, Mozambicans, they've got every reason to do that. This has put the lives of Zimbabweans in Tanzania in jeopardy. The lives of those Zimbabweans in Kenya, they are in danger. Zimbabweans in Namibia are in danger. Zimbabweans in Mozambique are in danger. Zimbabweans in South Africa are in danger. And not all Zimbabweans are interfering, brother, but those who have benefited from the power guru are benefiting. Toda kuwamamisa 2020 todzorera vanojairira. Yes, the problem now, Mkoma Clive, is when these people sit down and discuss where the problem is, they say Zimbabwe. When they see Zimbabweans in their streets, they don't know that most of these Zimbabweans are refugees or are people who have fled the ZANU-PF government. So as a result, they become targets. In South Africa, tikupfekedzwa matai, tikupiswa on daily basis. In South Africa, we are being killed. Every month, they are saying over 300 or 400 bodies cross into Zimbabwe for burial from South Africa. So they cannot differentiate who is ZANU, who is not ZANU. And they think Zimbabweans are beneficiaries. They don't know that all those in Tanzania probably fled from Zimbabwe. So we have become a target in SADC. You go to Namibia, they will tell you go back home. You go to Botswana, they tell you pack your bags, go back to Zimbabwe. In Tanzania, it is going to be worse for us, if not difficult, for the people of Zimbabwe. So what is happening in Tanzania today has been predicted by other people. I have even on this platform predicted what is happening in Tanzania in some of my presentations. So it's the same thing that has happened in Kenya, same thing that has happened in Mozambique, same thing that has happened in Namibia. Let me say, across SADC, we've seen this happening. What is happening in Tanzania is not new. Looking at the ages of the people who are protesting in Tanzania, these are, I've seen them. Look at them. Look at the videos. You can tell that these are youth in Tanzania who are less than 25 years of age. That means if you look across Africa, we have got over 2 billion youth less than 25 years of age. Those youth are supposed to be persuaded to get involved in politics. And when they see what is happening with these dictators, they start to fear to involve themselves in politics. Probably this explains why millions of our youth die across the Mediterranean Sea trying to cross into Europe. It's because of these dictators. Go to Cameroon and see. The commander-in-chief of Cameroon is 92 years old. The commander of the defense forces is 89 years old. And what is left for the youth? There is nothing. Go to Zimbabwe. How old is Mnangagwa? How old is Valerio Swanda? Go to South Africa. Go to these countries that these dictators run. There are people who can no longer stand, who can no longer talk, who can't even salute, can raise a hand to salute, who are defense forces chiefs, who are presidents across Africa. And where are you, the youth of Africa? 25 years and under. What are you doing? They prefer to sink and die in Mediterranean from Africa, crossing into Europe. Europe is benefiting from human resources. Those able-bodied men are leaving Africa to go and work in Europe. What is gonna Africa be like in 25 years' time? When we are left with Madalas who cannot raise a hand to salute, who cannot go to till the land. What's gonna be like in Africa? When all the able-bodied men are crossing into Europe to go and look for menial jobs. We must reflect this as Africans. Let's look exactly at what is happening in Tanzania. Let's interpret what I'm saying here, ladies and gentlemen. There is a point where we have reached as Africans, particularly those in SADC. We have reached a point where we say it's no longer feasible for us to run away from that country. It's no longer feasible for us to continue running away from Zimbabwe. Because the more we run away from Zimbabwe, the more we open their opportunities to corruption, their opportunities to steal. So we need to deal with this problem once and for all. And the way of dealing with these dictators is very simple. It's very simple. I'm going to look into 4 pillars of protest so that I can open your eyes what we need to do as a people. Besides military training, besides military intervention, besides physical confrontation against these dictators, there are other ways, other means that we can achieve our goals. We can achieve whatever we want in a peaceful manner. Because if you look at today, Tanzania is mostly Muslims. It's an Islamic country. Pelama Muslims, they fear nothing. They do sacrifices, everything, unlike Christians. And we always put God first. By fire, hallelujah. The psalm extended, we are of too much tradition tribes. This is why being dished blood soothes cars Ngoma Shepherd. Thank you so much Ngoma Amandisha. And no saka mchona tipuwa zvimota zvegazi zvatenge chipiwa andimona. Saka let's look at the Tanzanian issue, ladies and gentlemen. Now the youngsters in Africa, they grew up seeing these coup d'etats. They think this is normal. Something that recently happened in Malagas, a coup d'etat, where the president of that country fled. It's like removing Emmerson Mnangagwa today and revoke his Zimbabwean status to send him back to Zambia. This is what happened in Madagascar. The president was ousted, citizenship revoked, and sent back to France. So let's look at the 4 pillars that we must understand. To understand the potential for protests, we've got some protest movements or people who need to protest to succeed. For us to succeed, ladies and gentlemen, researchers have found on 4 key factors that can lead protest movements to succeed or for people to succeed. Many in Zimbabwe are even scared of their shadow. It's because we have been under abuse for too long. And I don't care attitude. Zimbabwe, Zimbabweans, we have been subjected for too long to abuse. So where we got now, we are at an extent, or we reached an extent to say we must promote democratic change. By promoting democratic change in our country, we need a protest movement. That for that protest movement to succeed, it needs campaign demands is first pillar. Second pillar, we need a strategy. Third pillar, we need social composition. And the 4th pillar, we need to be organized, or we need an organization. So for us to succeed in removing ZANU-PF, considering the damage ZANU has done to SADC politics in the 21st century, nobody ever thought that ZANU-PF would damage Zimbabwe standing. The reputation of our country has been tarnished. If you go to Zambia, Zimbabwe is a tarnished country. Botswana, South Africa, Tanzania, Mozambique, Malawi, nobody likes Zimbabwe. Nobody likes Zimbabwe. It's because of ZANU-PF. So if we want a democratic change, we can initiate democratic change in form of a protest movement. For that protest movement to succeed, we need campaign demands. We need to tell Zimbabweans. We need to campaign with the Zimbabweans. We need to highlight a lot of things to Zimbabweans for them to understand. That is a strategy that every Zimbabwean will use. Protests. We want a clear social composition. Who is going to protest? Why are we going to protest? We look at the organizer. We need an organization. We look to the organization to say, if we are organized in this way and we have got a protest movement like Yes I Can movement, we can succeed in removing ZANU-PF. So every time we talk, we need to refer to these 4 pillars of protest. We need to refer to campaign demands. We need to refer to the strategy. We need to refer to social composition. Then we need organization. If we look at campaign demands, ladies and gentlemen, we refer to the stated goals and these ambitions of a movement. Stated goals, ambitions of Yes I Can. We look at the strategy. It must involve a movement's choice of violent versus non-violent strategy. Only 2 strategies in the world that have been used by Vanamdara Gandhi and used by other prominent politicians in the past. And that's the problem. We wait for someone to start this protest. Look at Tanzania, it was young youth who are busy taking Mtoriro. Right now, to tell them to join Mtoriro, they ask how much you need to pay them. It's because they don't know their value. We have got power in the population, power in numbers. Remember what I said yesterday, that there is power in numbers. The youth in Zimbabwe are probably the largest number when even it comes to voting. They've got power in their number. They don't realize the power. We try to convince them to uprise against ZANU-PF regime. Exactly, they'll ask you, how much are we going to pay? How much are we getting? They want to protest for money. They want someone to come with his money and pay for their protest so that they can get a well-being. So that they can enjoy freedom. They want someone to pay them in Zimbabwe, our youth, so that they can enjoy freedom. So the social composition of movements pertains to the social groups that make up the movement. Social groups that make up a movement. If I take you back to the formation of MDC, we had social groups that comprised that movement. We've got people from the labor, we've got the student union, we had like the ISO group from Wanagwisai. So mostly, social groups comes together to form a protesting movement. Azanu needs dog, eat dog mkoma jet. Kumamisana ndozoga zvinodiwa nezanu. This is like what I said yesterday. That ZANU-PF, it needs a tit-for-tat approach. that approach yekuti tikaabductwa tongotarisa tositi mwari vachapindira vanoshaita sei. We must move away from that mentality. We must make sure that it is a tit for tat for ZANU-PF, for them to know that vana veZimbabwe vava serious, vava kuda nyika yavo. And per major setbacks as Zimbabweans is unit. We are not united as Zimbabweans. We have energetic civilians who suffers by lack of support, like the likes of Itai Dzamara, this flag guy, Ngarivume, Gezi, Gezaland, officer Uya Okuti, Machina Rovai Pasi. Instead of supporting him, Tango Msia is languishing in prison at the moment. Saka problem ndeyekuti azvireve kuti hatina kubatana. Mukoma hama ndishe problem yatina muZimbabwe ndeyekuti munhu mumwe nemumwe paakagara, he thinks he's a leader. Izvozvi munhu wese ari muZimbabwe wants to be a president. Munhu wese ari politics, ukaenda kumba kwaBiti, Biti wants to be Zimbabwe president. Watchman want to be Zimbabwe president. Ngarivume wants to be Zimbabwe president. Job Skala wants to be Zimbabwe president. Andruona, tine vanhu vane ambitions ekuve ma-president vakawandisa than to be followers. Ndosaka makona isusu vana Yudha takutaura kuti we better follow the military route. Kana ndakuzoita president weZimbabwe ndenge ndichibva nekumilitary. Ukaenda kumamilitary ikoko, Chiwenga wants to be president. Valerio Swana wants to be president. Ukaenda kuma-war veterans, vana chimudhara chemusombodhia chekuzvimba maziso ichi choda kuitawo president. Tinonzani mutsvangwa ichi chekurepa vana kuhondo vane ma-15 years. Is a rapist kamudhara uyo. Anorara nemwana ane 15 years. Mukadzi wake akataura ega akati ndandine makore 15. Zvinyengerwawo namutsvangwa nemahure anonzana nawo pa. Ma-rapists, people who went to war to rape people, who never went to fight, who now pretend to be war veterans. Saka uri kuona tane problem yekuti they say what they want to be presidents. Hakuna ari kuda kutungamirirwa nemumwe. Saka our unit, we must admit that if we are to be united as Zimbabweans, we need to have one person as a leader. Then the rest will become followers. We help that person to secure power. Those rudiwa. We can't all be presidents. Zimbabwe nda one president. You know that one president. Wanalenda masarira. Uroti kana kaona mvura rutiza. Ada ukuita president. Akatomira anozwa address kuti nini American embassy ndoivhara. Ndaitobvunza musunungari kuti yakazovharwa here, Linda wasarira akazovhara here American embassy. Saka the problem is we need to know the 4 pillars of protest. Campaign demands which refer to stated goals and ambitions of a movement. Strategy involve a movement's choice of violent versus non-violent strategy. I am saying we have got 2 strategies that have been used time immemorial. Gandhi used a non-violent strategy to make sure that India is freed. Right? We have got other countries like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe were to use violence against Ian Smith regime for Smith to accept defeat. Then comes ZANU-PF. We have tried the non-violent strategy in ZANU-PF. Instead of them accepting defeat in 2008, accepting defeat in 2005, accepting defeat in 2002, accepting defeat in 2013, accepting defeat in 2018 and 2023, ZANU-PF has refused. Under such scenarios or situations, this is where Zimbabweans sit down and change the strategy. If we were implementing a non-violent strategy. That means the next strategy from that is violence. And when people start initiating violence, I am telling you, ZANU-PF will go the way Ian Smith went. So, for that to work, we need to look at the social composition of the movement, which pertains to the social groups that make up the movement. Lastly, we need to look at the organization, which refers to the degree of central coordination, contrasting with the more spontaneous or flat structured campaigns. That in an organization we need to accept that we need one leader for us to remove ZANU-PF. Zvekunzwa Douglas Monzora vanorana MDC kakutange katakshop party, a once vibrant opposition, now it's just like a tuck shop. Kakona shop munotengeswa mbanje, ukaenda kuMDC, even ukaenda kuHarvest House, yatove business rakutoitwa. Makutotengeswa mutoriro nembanje. Zvepolitics zvakatopera muHarvest House. And I think democracy process are no longer relevant in Zimbabwe. Coup d'etat is the only way to get independence. Besides that, we will languish in diaspora Mkoma Yuda. Panongoda Ghana, anogona Ghana. As anongosa pa automatic, utendekera. Unenge, who gave my government leaders. That is, Zutara Mkoma Hamandisha is true. If you look at the Zimbabwe situation now, it's a situation where it just needs one person who go to pfuti so go baravaza vanhu ngoti barrrr zvatopera and kungo baravaza so government yes yamunanga kwakagara muchitendi mungo baravaza so barrrr nozvitaura namukoma Hamandisha tane problem yekuti takuda kunosvika ikoko. That violent method of government removal is the same violent method of government removal ZANU-PF utilized to remove Rhodesian Front. Kuna vanhu vaingobharavazwa, vachingobharavazwa vachiinda vanhu. Saka tasvika pangonyangara izvozvi. People need to be very, very careful. Because tikarega kubharavazana tega, tiri kubharavazwa nemaneighbors edu. Baravazwa nema neighbors, especially unge kuMozambique uko ngwarirai. Botswana tingwarire. Manamibians aya. Tanzania, Kenya tapinda pangonyangara. Unozari ku Kenya vanongosvika ma terrorists aya vanongosvika hungo occupy a building. Wotanga ngore munhu wese ari building asina nemhosva yakapara. We are likely to be targeted now. Because of ZANU-PF. We have interfered in other countries' elections. Unotadza kuziva kuti Mnangagwa anonointerfere my elections ekuTanzania, ekuKenya. What for? Saka vanhu vaya havatyi manje. Those people are warriors. Vanongouya paZimex mo paya. Vongokomba building yopinda moassembla pfuti dzavo. Ovhara madhoo achidushura vanhu imomo. Vanhu vanopera kufa. Because sacrifice. Muslims, they just sacrifice to anything. And on. Someone requesting to get in here approval. Let me try to pana mukoma waroda kupinda timbonzo. Because zvakanaka kunzwa different from different people. Andimona. Saka tikutaura kuti kupfuura or beyond this, the organization also encompass the movement it encompasses the movement ties to established groups in society. And you vote for people without credentials or known history. Namkoma Tavana Ishe Masunga, and you vote for people without credentials or known history. And so what through to the Mkoma Tavana Ishe Masunga. But Varukta kuti, I think Varukta kana takunovhota ngativhotere vanhu vasingazikanwa vasina nhoroondo ezvematongerwo enyika yemuzimbabwe vasina macredentials tungotora someone asingazikanwa vatati muntu uyo presidential candidate munhu wese let's run behind him. Ameno ngoma tavana shendo zvavaroda kutaura here handiti maona. Saka ukada kutarisa ndachitarisa nhoroondo MDC kuti yaive ine civil society organizations mairi, yanga ine ma-unions, vana ZCTU mavari, nema-other entities with established networks and organizational capacities vaivemo MDC. But takafeila nenyaya yekuti mumwe nemumwe aida kuita president, wese pakazofa mudhara tsvangirai. Zvakatangana naWelshman Ncube vakatanga kuma 2005 vakati tsvangirai haina kudzidza, vakati vanoda part of intellectuals, vakatora mudhara Gibson Sivanda vakamuti iwewe chiuya utunganidzire vanhu, vakanotora Professor Arthur Mutambara, the most learned Zimbabwean, kuti chiuya uite iwewe presidential candidate. But with all those intellectuals, MDC yaNcube yakafoira. Saka ndo problem yatinayo muZimbabwe iyoyo, kuti munhu wese ari muZimbabwe arufuwa kuti anogona kuita president. Pari kushaika munhu anoti vazhinji vari isu regai titungamirwe wedu navachamisa. What we only need to accept here, guys, is let Nelson Chamisa be the champion of change. We come together under Nelson Chamisa. Tobatana tiri pasi panero. Then we push for the removal of ZANU-PF. I want to Douglas Munzora another candidate. Welshman Ncube another candidate. Bita another president. Hakuna kwatinoenda kana tiri disorganized like that. And my opposition party leaders acho anenge anotengwa neZANU. Ndo kwazvinozopesera zvave mukoma Joseph Tengeni. Because ZANU-PF kana ichikwanisa kutenga vanhu vanoita maskit umpa Rapture Ford 350,000 pamusoro, imari yeZANU kaiya iri kupuwa munhu yavo. Kana vachikwanisa kupa munhu ari kuzunza magaro chete, how about munhu ane political influence yekuti ZANU-PF can be defeated today? So at the end vanenge vava nashabamwa vonongotengwa nzitipe 2/3. Unoziva ndikatarisa mapoliticians so ndozwahasha so kuti 2/3 majority yakatozoenda kuZANU-PF kuti vachinje constitution munhu angagwaramba achitonga. Saka ivo nhasi vouya voti tusha pamberi pevanhu vachiti constitution haingachinjwe. Imuri ndimi makadya mari dzacho. Zvinopa hasha. Hanzi namukoma no chimwe chinhu chinorwadza, our justice system collapses. Most of our prisoners are not guilty. Our judges are not judges but educated, but they are a cadre deployment. Ndakataura nezuro ndikati out of the the 3 pillars of government, the judiciary inolidwa neZANU-PF chairperson kana kuti ZANU-PF member. The executive inolidwa naZANU-PF member. Because the other third pillar judiciary yeningirikini inolidwa na chichonzanichi chimutenda ZANU-PF political commissar anolida parliament. And so all the 3 pillars of government are led by ZANU-PF people. Saka nachilidwa neZANU-PF people tukuzviwo zvorevei zvakureva kuti nemajaji acho, because ndo vanosarudza majaji ka kuti jaji anofanira kugara apa ari jaji Malava ndiani, chief justice ndiani, vanosarudzwa neZANU. Saka you find kuti judiciary, executive, neyedu ese ari kutongwa nemazanu-PF political commissars. Saka hakuna justice yatoexpecta in that country. Anditi manzo. Ndosaka muruva tiri kutaura kuti tikada kutaura significance of these 4 pillars of protest, they lie in the presumed impact on 2 critical conditions: the size of the movement and the loyalty shifts within the ruling regime. Kuti tine very strong movement inoita comprise zvese zvezvo tatakaita kuMDC pakuchemerwa loyalty kuti tinofanira kuva tine a large or a big size of a movement. Saka tiri kuchema tichiti maZimbabweans uyai mujoine Yes I Can movement, Yes I Can organization. We want that organization to grow big in terms of size, and we want people to be loyal to that organization. And I also want those who are in the uniformed forces, who are in the government today, to shift their loyalty. Vabve kuzanu akwakuda chamuwana. Hey, maifu, chibage chikutsvaka ichi warandunzwa smero kuno. Andimaona, there must be shift of loyalty, ladies and gentlemen. People in the ruling regime, 90% of those in the ruling regime today are earning nothing, are getting nothing. Vakamirira kupo vakatuke jike mbeu kuti uzovota 2028. Saka we must, based on the shift of loyalty from ZANU-PF to Chiraidi.
Chiraidi, ukachisa nemakoko acho chinopfava. Bata. Kuda zvombe.
Kuda zvombe izvi. Izhizha iri, zhizha. Zhizha wakomana. Andimaona. Because we won't be successful if we don't build a big movement, if we don't base our movement on the loyalty of those from the ruling regime. Tikada kutarisa size ye movement. This is widely regarded as an indicator. Again, that's not fair. I don't think you did. Jija manamai, we are all Jija. You're Jija. I did. I'm not going to dwell on that much. But as you can't eat alone, then ask us to join movement with you. Ijija manamai, Ijija. I did let Ijija manamai. Kwakupisa. Kwakupisa regai ndobvisa ichi ndikutsva. Mapisa muno. Mapisa muno. Ngaitipfeke. Ya kwanyanya kupisa kwacho kwanyanya kumana. Todla Jija. Pakaipa mani saka andisina kugara maningi, andisina kugarisai. Andisina kugara maningi. Saka zvaakuchemerwa manje nemaZimbabweans. Takuda what we call a mass movement. Hanzi kwese kana kuno kwapisa. Sekuru. Sekuru changu ichi. Sekuru mhoresere mbuya. Mutauri ndachiona mukomana wako pachivhitivhiti. Zvinonakidza wakomana kana ona nasekuru. Sekuritonde. Mukadzi wasekuritonde mukadzi wangu. Asi mukadzi wangu inini mukadzi wangu. Asi wasekuritonde. Kuti muzukuru kwakanaka wakomana. Kuti mukadzi wasekuru mukadzi wangu. Asi mukadzi wangu asi mukadzi wasekuru. Kuti muzukuru kwakanaka. Hanziko na mukomano, hanzi let's also weigh in about Chinese invasion in SADC and the bold position taken by Namibian leaders, Botswana and Traore position. What's your take on this? Machina ngaro epasi, ngaro epasi. Machina ngaro epasi. I don't mince my words. Let Chinese go. Anyone. Because what we do is, we must all demand the end of ZANU-PF regime. That in our demands should be based on two strategies. One strategy is a violent strategy. Another strategy is a non-violent strategy. So it depends on the composition of the organization, the Yes I Can organization. For us to demand the end of ZANU-PF regime, people must come to an agreement to say we are going to use violence against ZANU-PF, which ZANU-PF did when they ended the Rhodesian Front regime. They sat down, agreed that they were going to use armed struggle, or they're going to initiate an armed struggle to end Rhodesian Front. That was a violent strategy. We have been smart enough from 2000 in the opposition. We have engaged this regime in a non-violent manner, despite the regime coming heavy-handedly on us, using all sorts of violence, including abduction and murder. We have been lenient to this regime. We have mobilized a large number of people, and we have implemented or applied tactical diversity to deal with the ZANU-PF. But everything was like a parcel that is tied, centered at the end on electoral participation. No matter the tactical diversity we employed in the opposition in the last 25, 26 years, everything was based or centered at the end on the elections, that we need to go into an election, and those elected, those win, will run Zimbabwe. Opposition has won on several occasions, but ZANU-PF has refused to hand over power. So I am saying, we did all the mobilization. We had large numbers of people voting, large numbers of people campaigning. We applied all sorts of tactical diversity that resulted in an election. And we have won elections on several occasions. But for ZANU-PF to hand over power to a winner, this is where the problem is. So I am saying, when we demand the end of ZANU-PF now, we must look at only two strategies. Either we initiate violence against ZANU-PF, or we continue a non-violent strategy. The non-violent strategy, we have used it for the last 25 years, 26 years. We have looked up to organizations like African Union. We have looked up to organizations like SADC to say, look, Zimbabweans are being abducted on a daily basis. Zimbabweans are being butchered by this regime on a daily basis. We hoped organizations like United Nations would come and intervene and try to stop abductions and force free and fair election, because we are a member of the United Nations. We are a member of the African Union. We are a member of the SADC. Those powerful organizations, none of them came with a strategy to try and stop ZANU-PF from brutalizing us. They never came up with a plan to say Zimbabweans for the last 26 years have lost over 15,000 activists being murdered by ZANU-PF. They did not bring any strategy whatsoever. So it's all up to us now as Zimbabweans. Let's look back what is happening in Tanzania. Yes, we can do it. You can do it. I can do it. Yes, I can do it. Yes, you can do it. Yes, we can achieve it. As I'm speaking, the president of Tanzania has fled Tanzania. I can foresee Emmerson Mnangagwa fleeing Zimbabwe. If you can, if I can, if we can come together. If we can mobilize a large number of people and say, Mnangagwa ngavainde, zve-2030 zvazvimwe, zve-2028 election zvazvimwe. What we need is mobilize people abroad for any form of support. We can mobilize people back home for any forms of support. We need actors who act now across all social divisions. We don't need one who busy ari busy kusupportwa nezanu to destroy the organizational networks that we have worked for quite a long time. We have hoped for international support, which never came. We have looked to democratic or democracy promoters across the globe, but they never brought any form of sanity to our situation in our country. We have looked for opportunities within ourselves to say, look, what can we do? What can we offer to deal with this autocratic regime? But nothing tangible came out of it. Our popular demands were for justice. Apana munhu arikuda kudya kuguta tikutaura justice kuti Zimbabwe tikangove nejustice tatove nedemocracy munyika medu. Saka what we need now is mass mobilization. Let's look back what's happening in Tanzania. Mass mobilization. Since 2000 up to now, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the changes that happened in the globe, in this world, there were increases in the countries that changed their regimes. But we have been stuck with the ZANU-PF. In the same period, other countries are changing. Other countries are having democracy. We are stuck with an undemocratic institution, undemocratic regime, an autocratic regime that just needs mass mobilization of Zimbabweans, like what happened in Tanzania. There is serious civil resistance. If you look historically, Musadag, civil resistance has managed to make powerful organizations fall like Rhodesian Front. Various groups applied non-violent methods to oppose oppression and injustice. Some, they use the violence to oppose oppression and injustice. Zimbabweans, we need a strategy to oppose injustice, to oppose oppression. There is no way we can leave Zimbabwe like this. I know we have got non-violent campaigns, non-violent champions from the civil resistance or mass mobilization involving the persistent use of non-violent approach. We have done that. We have seen that happening in our country. We have engaged in certain conflicts with the ZANU-PF, certain conflicts within ourselves in regard to strategies, non-violent action, which encompass, ladies and gentlemen, non-routine political acts, does not bring change to us. We need to be active. We need individuals in our country who refrain from fear. We want individuals in our country who shelf their fear and take head on this ZANU-PF regime. Because kufunga kwako kana ZANU-PF chinokwanisa kudzonganyidza kuTanzania ma-elections, pane paichazokwanisa here kuhold a free and fair elections yega ZANU-PF munyika medu. Azvichafa zvakaitika izvozvo. And zvakureva kuti tikarega kuisa ma-demands, tikarega kuisa strategy, tikaleka composure on ourselves and organization in ourselves, that means akusina chatinofa takawana munyika medu. Vanofa vachidaidzira zvavari kuita kuti vamunanga kwa 2030 nekuti vari kuona kuti vari kudhila nevanhu vakapusa, maZimbabweans takapusa. Saka tikabvisa kakupusa ikakaka, hapana anomira achidaidzira 2030. Zvinhu zviri unconstitutional kuti murume mukuru anodikitira kuparadza constitution yenyika nenyaya yekuti anoda kuti mumwe munhu, nenyaya yekuti iye ari kubenefit, anoda kuti mumwe munhu aramba aripo kuti abenefit. Saka ndiri kutaura nchiti chi, nditaura nchiti zvakwana. Tanzania yasimudza mhepo, Madagascar yakasimudza mhepo. Saka these campaigns, if we adopt them in our country, ngatisimudzei mhepo muZimbabwe. And tikasimudza mhepo, tikafamba this wave of change, autocracy will die. And murugona. Saka we need you to contribute. People need me to contribute. We need everyone, everybody should come aboard, contribute to the cause of freeing the people of Zimbabwe. Chatakutaura pana ndechekuti tikaramba takatarisa vana veZimbabwe, ngatinzwiranei tsitsi. Ngatinzwiranei tsitsi. Hatisi kunzwirana tsitsi. ZANU-PF haisi kunzwira vanhu vari muZimbabwe tsitsi. Haina kana tsitsi nevana veZimbabwe. Vanenge vachitoshuvira dai mese maparara kufa vasara ivo vega vachitonga nyika iyayi. Emezvo kumaruzevha vanhu vari kubviswa, pangowanza hapane goridhe apa vanhu vari kubviswa. Saka hakuna chinhu chinorwadza kuti now they are advocating to amend our constitution to allow Mnangagwa to continue to loot Zimbabwe. Saka turikuti chi? Turikuti iwewe neni totarisa here zviri kuitika. I know together we will be very powerful. We will be very powerful. Iwewe neni tikabatana, tikaita chinhu chimwe chete, we will be very careful, powerful. MuZimbabwe hamusina vanhu vatoti maworkers, hamusina. Because a long time ago, there were workers, and the workers, they yielded significant influence in terms of my protests. nezvikada kuti protest munhu anokudzwa ndodyei. Because what is crucial now is food. Economic sector has collapsed. People are no longer working. Because during Mdara Changirai's time, workers had a very central role in terms of protests. Zimbabwe was an industrialized country. Saka wana kwaitika ma-strikes and other forms of industrial conflict. Vanhu vairama mabasa, economy yaimbomira substantially. But now, hakusina izvozvo. Tikada kuti tiite protest munhu akutanga kutaura ndodyei. Ndoda mari yerende kupera kumwedzi. Vana vanoda kuenda kuchikoro. Ndobhadhara chikoro chacho nei. Apa tiri kutaura vanhu vari kubhadhara school fees munyika ine government yakataura kuti 2018 hakusina mwana anenge achibhadhara school fees. Ndikabvunza maZimbabweans nhasi kuti muri kubhadharirei school fees. Hapana anoene answer. Hurumende yakataura 2018 kuti hakusina mwana anofanira anodzingirwa fees kana anobhadhara fees. Chikoro mahara. But unongona vana nhasi vanhu vari kunobhadhara fees. Saka kudhara taiziva isusu. Tikada kutanga zhowe ma-students were another group rataita rope in. Ma-students. Saka tai-expanda our core of influence kuvanhu vari kuma-universities, which was a very substantial part of our society. Vai-complimenta ma-workers kana zvinge zvarema. But iye zvine zvakusina. Ma-students acho kaenda ikoko. Ndakazoseka zvangu ndikati. Chinonzi student union. Nenzara yako yanongoda izonzi. Uya pano rudei. Zvima-protest zvatofa. Zvena University of Zimbabwe. Zvakaparara. Hakusina zviya. Saka toita sei. Takamboti ngatiitai vakadzika. Tione kuti vakadzi ndo vangaita sei. Takaisa vana mai Lilian Timovius muzvigaro. Vakapedzisira 2 days vakanga vakuZANU-PF. So you find the level of women participation in our movements. Vanhu havachadi zvavakadzi. Instead of them stand with us, they stand where they are not intimate. Fear ndo inovakuvadza. Fear ndo yakuvadza vakadzi. Hondo yechimurenga yakamiswa nevakadzi ye. Vana mai Mutsvango vaenda vachinobvisa mabhurukwa vari vana vadiki vane 15 years. Kuita kuti makomrades afare. Haasi Mutsvango chete akaenjoy. Vakawanda. Kuti vafare makomrades. Vamwe vakaenda vakanotadza vakanorovera mumasango vabva pana mai Mutsvango. Andiona. Saka tikatasa vakadzi soka, in some movements, women barely figure, while others, they both initiate and dominate the movement. If you look at what is happening in Tanzania, it's because of a woman. This is one very good example of women failure in politics. I don't know how best we can rope women to play a key role in our movements. Because vakadzi zvakutotya kana kutojoina zvima movements izvozvo nekuabuse vamwe vacho. Saka vamwe vanotora ma-leadership role, but vakatora ma-leadership role, vazhinji vacho they fail. Vana Thokozani kupi vakangoumburuka achiinda. Mbuya Thokozani bvisai bhurugwa zvavharana. Hakusina mukadzi achamira futi. Takaona vakuenda naMnangagwa vachinofidha hove vachiimba kwaHanyani, opposition leader. Andirikuona participation yevakadzi mustruggle yedu hazvakunetsa. Because if we look at the level of female participation, influence, considering the dynamics of descent yatinayo, the impact yacho is limited. It's limited. Izvozvo tikataura ndachiseka hanzvadzi yangu yanga ichinyora pana. MuZimbabwe hamuna varume. Haatozivi kuti kune Vakadzi must be leaders, must take leadership roles. Saka, I'm not sure, woman, because it's gonna be very difficult for us if we don't fight together as Zimbabweans, and if we don't come together as Zimbabweans. If we don't organize ourselves to remove ZANU-PF, Tanzania must be a template. It must be a template. We must look at Tanzania and answer our questions. We've got loads of questions. Our questions must be answered by the Tanzanian template or the Madagascar template. Now, if you don't believe with Masoja Edo a problem, must believe it. With Masoja is Zimbabwe. Kumalawi Masoja akasimuka abingu wamutarika wakainda. Kutanzania mbuya vatiza. Nuni Masoja angota regai vanhu vaite zvavanoda. Ndo vari kutiongwa. Ndo vanotongwa. Regai vaite zvavanoda. Saka, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to take your time. Ngationane mangwana ndanonoka kutanga bhozi ndanambobuda. So let's talk tomorrow. As for now, good night.